Hello and welcome back to the Tin Barn. I'm Pragmatic Lee, and in today's video we're going to talk about a new tool here in the Tin Barn. In a recent video I showed using my box and pan brake to make a little tool caddy to go on a hydraulic press. And I'm pretty sure it was on that video that a comment was made about the way I attached the corners of that. I did it with punched holes in the tabs in the corners and used a pop rivet gun. And someone made a comment about a spot welder, of how useful the spot welder would be. I'm pretty sure it was on that video, and I'm pretty sure it was old outside screwball Chuck Bomarito. But for the life of me, I can't find that comment anymore. Chuck, if that was you, I appreciate it. Putting that worm in my ear. If it wasn't you, Chuck, whoever it was, I appreciate it. But I've looked and looked and looked trying to find that comment, and I don't remember exactly what it was right now, but I do know it put the thought in my head about getting a spot welder. Now, have I got enough work here in the Tin Barn to justify one? Well, truth be known, I don't have enough work out here in the Tin Barn to justify a third of the items I've got, but I enjoy them. As I've said before, this little hobby machine shop was a retirement gift to myself about 5 years ago, and I've enjoyed accumulating some tools for it. And so today we're going to talk about the spot welder. This is the Harbor Freight one. That comment, to get back to that right quick, it kind of stuck in my mind, and I debated for several weeks on whether or not I needed or I really wanted a spot welder. And then a couple little situations come up, and I said, well, I think I can find a use for it. And I've already found several uses for it. I've had it about 3 weeks now. Did some test welds with it. And like I say, I found a couple jobs already that I've used it to repair some items for. So I think it's going to be a versatile tool for the shop. Now, I'm not going to show you taking it out of the box. I think most of you know how to use a box opener to cut some tape and pull an item out. So I've already took it out of the box. Here it is. Now, why did I get the 110 volt, 120 volt versus the 240? I have no doubt whatsoever in my mind that the 240 volt would be more powerful, would weld a little thicker material. But I bought the 120 version purely for the portability. I've got 220 over on my welder. I've actually got a stove here in the Tin Barn I do some powder coating with. I've got a 220 drill press. Back behind me, back here, I've got the 220, 240 air compressor. So I've got 220 in the Tin Barn. 220, 240, just according to what you call it. I've got it here in the Tin Barn, but I don't have receptacles. The air compressor is hardwired in. The drill press is hardwired in. The stove has, of course, a big receptacle on that. The welder's got a big receptacle in it. I do have a smaller receptacle, but it's on 240, but it's only in one location. So I went with the 120 version, again, for pure portability. My outlets here on the workbench are on the same circuit as all my computers. I said all my computers. I actually only have 2 computers running over there. The tower, which I have 4 monitors on it. Then I have a Raspberry Pi file server, Samba file server, with 1 monitor on it. I have a printer on it. But that circuit runs basically the exterior walls here. And in addition to the computers, there's 5 battery chargers, cordless tool battery chargers. A lot of times I have an electric fan running. This pulls 13.5 amps. And when I was making some of the test welds, I actually tripped the breaker. Now, all the computers are on a battery backup, so I didn't lose anything there. But I looked in the manual. When you open the box up, you get, of course, the welder itself, the manual, and there's a couple of extra tips that go on the end. It says it draws 13.5 amps, and I looked up to see what, if any, allowances there were for extension cords. And it said you can use 10 gauge extension cords up to 30 feet. So shortly after getting this, I went on Amazon and purchased a 25-foot number 10 extension cord. So I can pull this, I can use it on the workbench, and excuse me, I can use it on the workbench, but pull power off a different circuit. So that's the reason, again, I went with the 110 version, and for the portability and the extension cord. Now on the handle, there's a few specs listed for it. 120 volt, 13.5 amps. Capacity, it says mild steel up to a combined thickness of 1/8 inch sheet steel. Combined thickness of 1/8 of an inch. So 1/8, 125 thousandths. So, you know, about 60 thousandths. That's, let me look on my chart right quick. 62 thousandths would be about 16 gauge is 60 thousandths. So between a 15 and a 16 gauge, which is reasonably thick material. In addition to that, it says galvanized steel, 2 pieces of 20 gauge, which 20 gauge is about 36 thousandths. So 2 pieces of that, maybe a total of 50 thousandths of galvanized. One thing there, if you didn't already know it, there are numerous videos on YouTube talking about this welder, the 120 version and the 240 version. And they point out, some of them show you again how to take it out of the box and all that kind of stuff. But I watched several of them, and they kind of get a little bit, seem to be a little bit upset about these probes not lining up. And they go to adjusting all this, and then they put the tip on and realize that they were already aligned. You can adjust the length and the tilt on these probes by just loosening these 4 socket head cap screws up here. But before you do that, put the points on first. Put one of the sets of points on, and as you'll see in this case, they lined up. I never adjusted a single bit of these probes. They lined up just like it is. But it is important that with the points on, that the two meet in the middle right here, meet together. In all those videos that I watched, one of the things that I kept looking for and kept trying to determine was this switch back here. The way this works, you put your material in, of course, between here, clamp it down, and then be sure I'm unplugged right now. Then there's a switch under here that you activate. And the question I had in my mind every time I look at them was, is this another one of the numerous items that's made just for right-handed people? Meaning clamp it with your right hand and point and push that trigger over here with your forefinger on your right hand. Couldn't find any reference to that. And to me, that was, as I've said before, I'm left-handed, and I may want to use this left-handed and push the switch that way. Well, first thing I did when I got to Harbor Freight, they have one of them out of the box. It's, of course, strapped down to the display. First thing I did was look at that switch, and it'll go either way. Thank you, Chicago Electric, Harbor Freight, for making an ambidextrous switch. Can be used with either hand. But that's the way that works. You put your work material in there, clamp it down, and flip that switch either way. Now, it took me a little bit of experimenting to determine how long to hold that switch. And I don't have a formula for you. You just have to try it and experiment with it. It does come with a handle on top, so if you needed to carry it, say you're rebuilding a car or something like that, and you want to put together two of the panels, you don't have to bring the panels to this. You can carry this out. It is reasonably heavy though. I hadn't even weighed this before. Let's get an idea about what it is. That looks like about 24 pounds. So let's try doing a little bit of welding. I'm gonna bring the camera in a little closer. Basically what I'll do is, well, first thing I'm going to do is clean the points. Just lightly file off any residue from the previous welds. Get that clean. But we'll clamp our workpiece in here. I'll push the handle down and push the button. All right, the first thing we're going to try is some 24 gauge galvanized. It's probably not going to weld this right to begin with. Let's see, let me get plugged in. Your material needs to be clean of grease, oil, grime, dirt. But let's just see if it'll weld this without cleaning some of that galvanized off. Clamp it good and tight. Yep, it burned through that galvanized. Now, another thing I noticed doing these test welds is the points kind of stick together, and that's to be expected. But if you'll just put just a slight twist on your material, it'll come right out. Good strong weld there. I've been extremely pleased with the results I've been getting with this. This piece really didn't get that worn. Let's go to the other side, other end. Again, clamp down. All right, let's try some thin material. This is some 30 gauge. It's got galvanized on it, but it's fairly new material, so it's doesn't really have any corrosion built up on it. And I probably didn't hold that much more than a second there. Very good weld. All right, the whole piece is getting a little warmer now. But again, let's see if, I think you're still in frame here. Let's take a chisel. Pulled that chisel all the way through. Welds are holding fine. Let's try that on this piece. Remember, that was 30 gauge, reasonably thin. This is 24 gauge here. They turn it to the vise here. I'll be out of frame for just a second. I'm just going to turn it to the vise long enough to get this chisel started. All right, I got it opened up enough here to get this chisel in. Again, very good solid weld. Now, one more experiment we're going to do right quick. Remember I said the specs on this said total thickness was 1/8 of an inch. This is just a piece of old, actually it was a rigidity strap to go on the back of a set of vertical shells. I just cleaned the paint, the paint off of it, and the two of those combined is a little over 1/8 of an inch. It's about 0.128 to 130. So it's just a hair over what it says the max on this, but this was the closest I could find to being a combined 1/8 of an inch. Now obviously I'm going to hold this just a little bit longer than I held the 30 gauge. You know, I really didn't know what to expect from the spot welder. This is my first experience even seeing one of them, let alone using one of them. But I don't know what more to expect than that. Get that flattened back out a little bit. And it's a little bit warmer than that thin material, so let's weld that other end. All right, let me see if I can get the chisel started in between there. That's pretty tight. Again, I'm going to go over to the, swing to the vise right quick, clamp it down, and try to get this started, chisel started in. Folks, I'm pleased. All right, I want to do one more little demonstration with this. Remember, the whole thing of the whole concept or the whole idea of me getting a spot welder was making that pan using the box and pan brake to make that little tool caddy. Well, I folded up another one. As you can see, up in here are the little tabs folded in, and that is what I put the pop rivet before. Let's try this. Let's compare that to one put together with rivets. Pop rivets, spot weld. Okay, if you've stuck with me this long, I appreciate it. I realize this is not a normal tin barn video, but I did want to highlight this new acquisition in a video and give you my experience with it. As time goes along, I'm sure I'll find more uses for it. It'll not be an everyday used item here in the tin barn, but I'm sure I'll get plenty of use out of it. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video and got a little bit out of it as well. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one.